Hello and welcome back to for the very first time to the channel. I am Will and today I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different. So it's still reading related, it's still about books and it's still about what I'm going to be reading. But today is going to be about, as I'm sure you gathered from the title of the video, my uni reading list. And so after a few gap years I'm finally heading off to study English literature and history at university level. And so I've been given my English modules, I've chosen them, and today's going to be about my reading list. And so to kick it off with, one of my modules is going to be the epic and the legend of literature. And for this, it won't be the first one I read, it'll be near the end of the year, but I have to talk about it first. I'm going to have to read The Hobbit and The Children of Hurin. I mean, it's not like I read these and have read these 3 or 4 times already. I mean, if they insist I have to read it, I guess I'll have to, won't I? But all jokes aside, I'm just so happy that I'm going to be reading these to study them. And it's blowing my mind, really, and I really cannot wait. And so it'll be about, because throughout the year I'll be reading, as I talk about in a second, many works of kind of Old English, Old Norse and Old French. And then at the end of the year, it will be looking at how kind of those sources and those works were used to inspire recent works and how they were used. And yeah, because The Hobbit had taken many influences from the past. Tolkien, of course, a professor himself, adored these works, and he did translations of many of the ones that I'll be talking about. And so, yeah, the first thing on the reading list, my first lecture, will be on Beowulf. That's obviously a very well-known epic poem that I imagine needs no introduction at all. And this will be the Seamus Heaney translation, which I've read twice already, but I'll be reading it again in preparation. And I really cannot wait. I loved a discussion with Philip Chase and obviously my brother Ed. We did on Philip Chase's channel probably around 2 years ago now, and we talked about Beowulf. And yeah, I'll be watching that again and getting many insights from Dr. Philip Chase himself in preparation, I'm sure. And yeah, that is Beowulf, and it's one that I really recommend that everyone reads. I mean, a lot of these, it seems like, oh, kind of their older works. People don't really want to read these, but I've read quite a few of them already, and I just highly recommend them. Beowulf is captivating, in my opinion. I love kind of the exploration of the themes and the story, and the way that it is told. It is just really engaging, and there's often this misconception that old works are kind of incredibly hard to read or understand. But Beowulf, I think anyone could understand it, and yeah, I think everyone should read it. And yeah, so that is the first few, and then I'll be reading some plays as well, because one of my other modules will be Introduction to Drama, and so the first one for that will be Dr. Faustus. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to rereading this. This is obviously where kind of the trope of selling your soul in return for kind of whatever you want came from. And well, I didn't come from this, but this is kind of, it's called a Faustian trope, and so yeah, it's derived from Marlowe's play. And yeah, Marlowe was kind of not a rival, but he was at the same time, and maybe even a rival of William Shakespeare. And Dr. Faustus, I thought, was a brilliant play when I read it. I love many of the monologues. Faustus as a character himself is yeah, it's a great character study, and I love that kind of trope of kind of that question of selling your soul is so kind of it's very engaging to read about, and it's one that many of my favorite books include as well. It's kind of how far are you willing to go to reach your goals, whether that be immortality, ultimate power, or whatever it is. And so yeah, Faustus deals with that. And then another play will be Hamlet, which is often known as the greatest play of all time, of course, subjective, debatable. And yeah, there's probably other Shakespeare works that I prefer. Macbeth is personally my favourite, but Hamlet is most certainly a masterpiece. And so yeah, luckily it's not that long. This is a collection of loads of William Shakespeare plays that I've got. And I also need incredibly huge magnifying glasses to read this text. But yeah, this is a collection of William Shakespeare works. And yeah, I'll be reading Hamlet at some point very soon as part of the reading list. And then my third module will be Introduction to the Novel. And so the first book I'll be reading for that is Moll Flanders by Daniel Defoe. I've actually read this before, but it's one that has kind of faded from my memory, and so yeah, a swift reread is in need. And yeah, really looking forward to reading that again. And next up I have some more Tolkien, and so part of the, as I've already talked about the epic and the legend of literature, we'll be reading The Battle of Morden and looking over that. And J.R. Tolkien released a translation, well, it was published last year by the Tolkien estate. And yeah, The Battle of Morden, here I come. I meant to read it last year, but somehow it just escaped my reading pile, and then I didn't see it for a few months. But now I've got an even better reason to read it. And then next up, I have some Anglo-Saxon verse. So within his poems, such as Dream of the Rood, The Wanderer, and many of those, which if you have not heard of, I definitely recommend reading them. Again, captivating. And The Wanderer, you may recognise some lines from a speech by Theoden, and I won't say it because that would be really interesting to spot out. I mean, when I was reading it for the first time, I stopped for a second. I was like, wait a moment, I recognise that. And obviously Tolkien altered it and altered it for his own purposes, and that's where he got his inspiration from. And I love it when you kind of just stumble across something where one of your favourite authors got inspiration from, and you kind of make that link between the two. It's often quite an incredible moment, and I love kind of finding the inspirations for my favourite works. And all of Tolkien's works are up there in my favourites, and so it's amazing that I'm going to be reading a lot of the kind of root material that he got inspired from. And then next up, I have the sagas of the Icelanders. I won't be reading all of these, but inside here is Egil's saga, which will be one of the first that I'm reading as well. And then alongside that, I'll be reading old works such as the Völuspá and the Poetic Edda as well, which I cannot wait. They are ones that I've not read before, whereas many of the ones I've talked about previously in this video, I've already read once or twice already. Of course, I'm looking forward to going through them again, but it'd be really interesting to kind of look at new stuff as well, such as the Völuspá, which Papa Gwyn has talked to me quite a lot about, and he's got inspiration from this. Many of these are the texts that he's been inspired by and has read as research for the Bloodsworn saga. And so, yeah, that would be interesting kind of discussing them with Papa Gwyn, and also Ed, my brother, as well, because he is quite adept at these sources as well. And then I've got some more novels to talk about. I'll be reading Emma, Jane Eyre, Bleak House, kind of many of the now known as kind of the greatest novels of the 19th century. Again, it's always subjective, but that's kind of at least some of the most well-renowned novels of the 19th century. And then I'll be reading a graphic novel, which took me by surprise, The Watchmen. I will be reading that as part of my reading list. It'll be the end of the introduction to the novel lecture list. And so, yeah, really looking forward to kind of diving into that as well. I love kind of the variety between these modules that I've chosen and the reading that will accompany them. And obviously there'll be a lot of other reading, background reading, but these are the main texts that I will be reading from for the lectures for my uni course this year. And then of course I'll have another whole side of things for the history side, but my modules have not been verified yet. So today I was just talking about the English literature side, and yes, I'll be going off to Durham to study English literature and history at the end of September. It is fast approaching, and yeah, it's getting crazy getting prepared, but I'm really looking forward to kind of reading and studying these works, and yeah, it's really igniting a passion in me, and yeah, I'm feeling just really excited to start that side of things. And so everyone, thank you so much for watching, and yeah, let me know if you've read any of these. Did you study English? What did you read? And yeah, could you think of anything better than being made to read Tolkien for your uni course? I mean, personally, I can't. And so yeah, I'm very lucky. And everyone, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe.